My objective will be to cut the cost of building a new home by 30 to 50%, and much of it is regulation. And in addition, we will open, and this is your great people in the state that are asking me so many times, so many people are asking me to do this. We will open up new tracts of federal land for large-scale housing construction so that we can get housing on the market. Existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can buy a home. And there's so much talk about, oh, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen. My objective will be to cut the cost of building a new home by 30 to 50%, and much of it is regulation. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Rescue Michigan Sunday night live stream, and we've got some documents to check out. That's for sure. We've got some other stories to cover too. I didn't realize this. You guys, thank you for tuning in. You are joining me instead of watching Mark Levin's crucial show tonight, where he will provide a strong argument for a military to immediately take down Khamenei and his genocidal regime. Please pass the words to your friends and family. Don't forget to set your DVRs as well. So I guess maybe that's why you guys are able to tune in tonight, because you're watching me while the DVR is taping Mark Levin for his wonderful diatribe on why we need to go to war. I'm sure that won't have any unforeseen consequences. But we have, unfortunately, some very bad news if you're a Republican. And for the record, I still am. But I also try to live in the world of reality. And there was an election today in Texas in which a Democrat won a special election in a district that Trump carried by 17 percentage points. And it wasn't just a 17-point flip. No. The race was won by 14 more points, 57 to 43. So that is a 31-point flip. And that comes after we already talked about the races we had in November that were categorically bad for Republicans all over the country at every level, state, federal, local, everywhere. There were no federal ones, but state and local elections. And this is extremely alarming. Now, someone did say on X when I posted this story, doesn't matter because this is an election where it was to fill a vacancy in a Senate race. And unlike Michigan, Texas does not have a full-time year-round legislature. So they're actually not in session for the rest of the term, unless they call a special session, which they sometimes do. But nevertheless, as you can see in this article, this race was closely followed by national leaders of both parties. Republican leaders concerned that defeat to bring an influx of Democrat investment into Texas races tried to rally support for Mrs. Wamsgons, was, I guess, their candidate's name. She received an endorsement from President Trump, the backing of prominent conservative leaders. So Republicans did not ignore this race. In fact, Trump endorsed the candidate. You can win this election for Lee, who has my complete and total endorsement, Trump wrote. And this district declined 31 percentage points. Now, again, maybe because of this being a special election, that there's a turnout issue here, but I don't see why. I mean, maybe a little bit, but there is no explaining a 31-point flip other than that there is an absolute bloodbath coming in the next election, unless things change dramatically at the national level. Because this is, look, clearly the Democrats have done absolutely nothing whatsoever to redeem themselves since the last election, which was a great election for Republicans. Just over a year ago was a great election for Republicans. And ever since, it has been Democrats outperforming expectations in every single election. And this latest one, a 31-point flip, is extremely dangerous. I mean, this is just the facts, folks. Like, believe me, I don't. Here, I'll show you some other stories. We have, here's one from this week. David Bondi posted this. The Michigan Department of Education is hosting a seminar for teachers on how to affirm LGBTQ plus elementary school students. Yeah, I kind of want to put a stop to these things, which will happen only if Republicans keep and reclaim majorities all over the country. If the Democrats sweep the next election, this stuff is happening everywhere, forever. That's how serious this is. But the messaging we're getting from Trump, it just gets more and more bizarre. Here's one. See if you can follow this story. This is in Louisiana. Here's this. This is a congresswoman who is running for U.S. Senate, and here's what she shares on X.
It is all. Hi, Louisiana. This is Congresswoman Julia Letlow, and I have some exciting news to report. I just heard back from the Trump administration that they will change a rule that was going to adversely affect our crawfish farmers, our shrimp farmers, who rely on H-2B visa workers to continue their good work. They are going to be able to continue now that President Trump has delivered for them. And I am so grateful to President Trump for doing this for Louisiana. It is all about building relationships and to get things done. And you cannot vote to impeach the president and expect results like this. I'm Julia Letlow. I will continue working hard for Louisiana.
Hey, isn't that great?
Louisiana, this is
what a win. What a win. Louisiana crawfish farmers will get their cheap foreign labor. All right. How does that strike you, America? Is that what you voted for? No? Gee, I wonder why Trump's approval rating is not so great. Wonder why Democrats are winning these elections. Wonder if there's any connection between, the actual performance of the administration and the mood of the voters. Nah, it couldn't be that. Here's another story that came across this week. Back in July, with great fanfare, the DOJ filed a complaint against Judge Boasberg. Now, remember, Judge Boasberg is the one that released Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Venezuelan gang-banging member of Tren Agua, the human trafficker, that guy, that judge. The complaint has now been dismissed because DOJ failed to attach supporting evidence. What? The core of the complaint was Professor Cleveland's exclusive reporting in The Federalist, which showed Boasberg revealing his entrenched and undisguised anti-Trump bias while advising other judges. Specifically, Boasberg privately speculated about the Trump administration allegedly disregarding court rulings, a comment that was both improper and prejudicial. There is no excuse for the DOJ failing to include the memo in which Boasberg is documented making his statements. That memo was the entire point of the complaint. Without it, the filing was dead on arrival. Even worse, the dismissal reveals that instead of attaching the actual evidence, the DOJ cited a Fox News clip. Total amateur hour and borderline farcical. Frankly, a complaint of this magnitude collapsing over basic evidentiary failures smells more like intent than mere incompetence. And then here's the court's decision. In the absence of the attachment, you didn't file the document that proved what you're claiming. The complaint offers no source for what, if anything, the subject judge said during the conference, when he said it, whether he said it during the conference, another meeting. Later in the complaint, to be sure, the department refers to a Fox News clip discussing the same allegation, but it does not identify any source, contain any specifics, or answer any of the above questions. Oops. Amateur hour, folks. So yeah, that's where things are. So here we are, just kind of waiting for the war with Iran to start, which hasn't happened yet. I still maintain that it is coming soon. Surprisingly, it hasn't happened already. There was a good post by Daniel Davis about this, who made the point that what it looks like has happened is that the military just wasn't exactly ready. Let me see if I can find what he said exactly. Here we go. Let me pull this up on the screen here. I'm glad for any evidence that there won't be a strike from the U.S. on Iran, but the fact that it appears to be postponed is troubling for a separate reason. Reportedly, the original attack was supposed to happen on January 14th, but the administration realized it didn't have enough combat power to defend against the expected Iranian retaliation. So they waited until the Abraham Lincoln Battle Group got on site. Now it appears that they have again recognized they still don't have enough combat power and again have pushed the operation back. This gives evidence we're doing a terrible job at mission analysis at the national level. These kinds of issues should have been evident in the original concept phase, much less when combat power was actually being deployed abroad and actions being contemplated. So yeah, we're still moving more hardware into the region. And the thing is, at this point, if Trump was to abort and to not attack Iran, it would give Iran a really big PR boost to make it look, it would make Trump look weak, frankly, so he's already put himself in this position. So the attack on Iran is still probably going to happen, probably in the next week or two at most. I mean, for all we know, it could happen before the show is over. Which would be maybe good to get the headlines off of the Epstein documents, which is what we're going to be spending most of tonight talking about. But yeah, and that I think is the big thing is the Epstein documents have come out, and boy, what there is a lot in here, and we are by no means done. In fact, I think Thomas Massey said there's still enormous amounts of documents they're still withholding and redacting, and this is improper, and there's not even half of what needs to be released. But what has come out in just the past few days that people have found, remember, it's also people need time to go through these millions of documents, but we have some quite interesting things, and I've got like tab after tab after tab here. So I've kind of grouped them in batches. Let me try to. Well, here, I'm in like groups of things. So first, I've got like some posts to kind of set the stage. So here's Thomas Massey, and keep in mind, remember, Trump did not want these documents released, and it's because of thanks to Thomas Massey and a few others, but mostly Massey, that these are actually out. Here's what Massey said. Oh, I hit play. Here we go.
Decades. That is wrong. Do not let the Senate muck this bill up. And if you're a party to that in the Senate, you are part of this cover-up that we are trying to expose. I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island. That is what they have coming. In fact, they need to be on the other side of bars, a lot of them. Some of them will be embarrassed, but some of them need to go to prison, and the survivors know that. So how will we know if this bill has been successful? We will know when there are men, rich men in handcuffs being perp-walked to the jail. And until then, this is still a cover-up. Decades. That is wrong.
And sentenced, I might add. This is still bare minimum. I mean, what to be expected. A couple other comments I wanted to post that kind of set the table. Matt Walsh had a good one. Here's what he wrote. I'm still going through the Epstein files. Some people are arguing that the nonsense in the files, and some of it is not fair, to be fair, unsubstantiated tips called in from anonymous schizophrenics, etc. And actually, we'll examine that because, but confidential human sources, CHSs, and people that report to the FBI typically are vetted. They are not just anonymous schizophrenics. But anyway, I understand the argument that they shouldn't be released because some of the information is bunk, but disagree with it because the fact is the conspiracy theorists were right. There is a powerful network of evil, degenerate, incestuous elites whose behavior, even when it's not criminal, though it often is criminal, is nevertheless disgusting and depraved. For years, they have enjoyed far more privacy than they ever granted us. They deserve to be exposed, even with whatever unintended consequences may accompany it. And frankly, what we'll see tonight is just absolutely shocking at the networks of this elite power. And Walsh goes on, I don't see any other option in the post-COVID world. Trust in our institutions and the elites who run them is non-existent. These are the people who locked us in our homes and lied to us about the reason. They lied about George Floyd. They spent years claiming the best way to treat a gender-confused adolescent girl is to chop her breasts off. Speaking of that, by the way, there was a court decision about that. Let me put that up on the screen because this is actually pretty neat. A detransition woman who received a gender-affirming double mastectomy at the age of 16, just received a $2 million medical malpractice judgment from a jury in New York State. The dam just broke. Let's hope. Let's hope. But anyway, getting back to what Matt Walsh was saying. Yes, the liars and charlatans will take whatever they want from the files out of context to support their preferred narrative. That is not ideal. But the path we've taken for the past several years, allowing the very people implicated in the files to decide which parts of it we can see, is far less ideal. In fact, it's totally untenable. So this is where we are now. Put it on the table. Let the chips fall where they may. So be it. Another comment. Initially thought the Epstein file dump was a bad idea. These are just too many people never grasp that much of what is in these files consists of random unverified accusations. Blah, blah, blah. But a significant silver lining that made me reconsider whether it was worth, after all, is the catalog of Epstein emails. The stories they mention, whether about Bill Gates or anyone else, may or may not be true. And that is not the point. Yet, even setting those stories aside entirely, the emails established one thing beyond dispute. Epstein was connected to all of these people. That alone exposes the incestuous nature of elite circles. It's not a matter of perception or inference. It's now a documented reality. An extraordinary number of powerful figures were in direct contact with Epstein or moved within his orbit one way or the other. That is not to say that everyone appearing in the emails is guilty of wrongdoing, but it is impossible to miss the scope of the network, ranging from the owner of the New York Giants to the former president of the United Nations General Assembly to the mother of New York's mayor, just to name a few. And yeah, that was a thing. We'll look at that. Zoran Mamdani's mother is in the Epstein files. How does that happen? There must, of course, be accountability for anyone who abused girls, but the broader lesson that emerges about elite entanglements and incestuous networks of power, I still doubt this will be the takeaway most people absorb, but if it is, then releasing all of the material will have been worth it. And there is really a lot in these. One thing I had to repost when I saw it. This is hilarious. When you're so pure, you can show up in the Epstein files, but still manage to come out looking better instead of worse. Yeah, because Ron Paul was in the Epstein files, but only to be described here as the anti-war candidate, the libertarian who have seized on Iran as possible winning issue, and with the exception of Ron Paul be friendlier to Israel than the current administration. So yeah, all they mention about Ron Paul is why we should have picked him in the first place. So that's kind of funny. So we're going to look at some of the documents and some of the interesting people that it describes. And somebody made a good point here. This person commented, "Can someone please explain to me why all these super rich men are pedos? If you're a billionaire and why can't you just date and have relations with any gorgeous women 18 plus you want?" And this person has a good reply. "You're getting it the wrong way around. Compromise is a condition for entry. Billionaires don't become pedophiles. They were already willing to do this on camera, and that's why they were permitted to become billionaires in the first place. It's called selling your soul to the devil." And we've talked about this, the way secret societies operate and why they have these bizarre initiation rituals. It's because you have to have a condition of mutual assured destruction based on, shared criminality, which, might be in the form of, in the case of gangs, committing a crime, but in the case of these people, often it's disgusting sex stuff. So anyway, all that having been said, I've got like whole categories of tabs of things. Let's first off, because Trump said that, he found that these new releases completely and totally exonerated him. Well, let's see. let's see here. Hilariously, on the day these documents come out was also the day that Melania's movie came out. And wouldn't you know, guess who's got his picture in, and there's a lot of pictures of him in the Epstein files, is the director of the movie, Brett Ratner. So there he is with Epstein and some victims. And if you don't know about Brett Ratner, there's a funny story that came out in Rolling Stone about it. Ratner already had a kind of a history of being a sex pest. So here is, where was the people? Yeah. So Natasha Henstridge told the LA Times, she was in, what was that movie? I think it's called Species. It's like an alien knockoff. Told the LA Times Ratner forced her to perform oral sex on him when she was 19. Olivia Munn, I don't know what she was in, but her name's familiar. She's a Hollywood person. Recalled Ratner masturbating in front of her when she visited the set of one of his films as a young aspiring actress. Ratner was never charged, but more recently there's been other accusations and other accusations and other accusations. And then the story just about how on the set he's a complete jerk. He left a trail of detritus, discarded orange peels, gum wrappers wherever he went on set. He did actually chew a piece of gum and then throw it in a coffee cup in my cart. Didn't acknowledge my existence for 1 nanosecond. So that's the director of the Melania movie. And then there's this guy whose name just came into the news this week. Never heard of him until this week. Kevin Warsh, who is Trump's pick to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve, who, of course, is a hardcore globalist. His father is Ron Lauder. I think maybe his father-in-law is Ron Lauder. I think that's it. Father-in-law is Ronald Lauder, a Zionist billionaire, who was actually the one who got Trump interested in Greenland. Anyway, new Epstein files reveal that Trump's newly nominated Federal Reserve Chairman, Kevin Warsh, is mentioned in a heavily redacted email sent to Jeffrey Epstein by an unknown individual. Words didn't appear as a possible attendee at a party where children could have been harmed. And then here is image. It's actually a little. Can I zoom in? How many people are you with tomorrow? Do you know so and so? Steve Cohen next door. Just met him. Keep me posted. Roman's boat's bigger than Ron Perlman's. Here's people that are coming. So a bunch of people getting together on a boat with. There's Kevin Warsh and there's Ghislaine Maxwell, right there on the list. So just maybe a one-off thing. Here's more photos of Brett Ratner in the Epstein files. So they got quite a few pics of him. Here's another one. Remember, Howard Lutnick, Trump's commerce secretary. Here's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to someone named Leslie Groff, and looks like there's some kind of event planning going on. And so Howard Lutnick sends this email to, and it's saying, "Hi, Jeff." So maybe got forwarded to his, I don't know who this other person is. "Hi, Jeff. We are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon. I'm planning to head over to St. Bart's on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What's the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children, 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard." And Milo makes a kind of funny comment. "Some very meticulous and specific listing of his children's ages there, almost like a menu. Was he bringing Jeff a picnic?" It's just kind of funny. Who else is in Trump land mentioned in the emails? Oh, Elon Musk. Here we go. And here we have Elon Musk tweeting on July 4th, 2020, "To the best of our knowledge, Epstein never toured SpaceX. Don't know where that comes from." And here's an email from 2013. "Thanks for the tour. You would have had fun at Christmas." Elon Musk says, "I see," smiley face. Weird thing to say if you never toured SpaceX. So there's that. Then we have this little one here. It's kind of funny. Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff. He says, "I assume you know the original funder of the dossier, the Russiagate dossier. Remember the compromat thing? The original funder for the dossier was Marco Rubio." Marco Rubio, of course, was an opponent of Trump in 2016 when he was running for president. So that would make sense. In fact, the dossier did come out during the Republican primary. It got picked up by the Clinton people as Trump became the nominee. But yeah, very strange that Rubio would be brought into Trump's administration when he, was working so hard to destroy Trump in the election and then well into his presidency. So there was that. And then there is this in a message from Epstein to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon chatted a lot with Jeffrey Epstein. They did a whole interview, which never came out for some reason. So here you see here on July 6, 2018, or maybe June 7th. I don't know how the date's formatted. Ken Starr, I assume, talking to Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton for Brett Kavanaugh. And Steve Bannon says, "That's huge." And then Epstein says, "I've been called many things. Human is not one of them," winky face. And Bannon then goes on to say, "I was getting too soft. Women are bad for the knees." There is So there's Jeffrey Epstein talking to Steve Bannon in 2018 about getting Brett Kavanaugh confirmed. So Epstein is actually tied directly into things that, like, the actual administration of government at the very highest levels. I mean, you might think, oh, who cares? The fact that, I mean, they were going to nominate him anyway, right? Cruz and Tom Cotton we're going to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. The issue is that Epstein is coordinating the lobbying campaign with Steve Bannon. By the way, here's another one. I have this in my Paint program. So I found it on Telegram. So I got to switch the screen. Hold on. But here's another one from Bannon. And, benefit of the doubt, maybe this is all a lie, but you see this woman here. Apparently her name is Madeleine Westerhut. So here is Epstein contacting Steve Bannon. And Jeffrey Epstein says, do you know Marianne, Donald's new friend? Madeleine Westerhut, very funny. And Bannon says, she's a receptionist. Good kid, Grundune. That's a weird insult Bannon likes for some reason. Came from RNC. And Epstein says, knee pads. Gee, I wonder what he means by that. Doing God's work, to which Steve Bannon writes, Limau. And then Epstein writes back, he's much more calm, but in the sight of him in the residence in his undies is hard to fathom. I'll give you details when I see you. Weird that, kind of newsworthy, just a little bit. And, if you're going to say, well, this is just these two guys talking. I mean, the date on that exchange was December 30th, 2018. Okay, so it is year, month, day. December 30th, 2018. So you might say, well, Epstein was just trying to tar Trump, and Steve Bannon was probably upset because he had gotten fired at that point. Well, maybe. Now, it is true that none of these things directly implicate Trump in any particular way. But why did Trump let this document dump become this huge disaster? If they just actually gotten them all out at once, like, this probably wouldn't even have happened. But because Trump made it he so desperately tried to block these documents from coming out. He completely opposed Massey's bill until the last minute when he realized it was going to pass anyway. And then he flipped. So anyway, what else do we have? Hold on, let me look over some of my tabs. All right, so that's just a little bit of the documents touching on Trump world, but that is minor compared to some of the other things that were in these Epstein docs. So here, there's a whole countries implicated in huge ways. So let's look at just some of these. So we have, here's a crazy one. This is a document. The Crown Princess of Norway, Mette is her name, Mette Merritt, who is mentioned over 1,000 times in these files. And Epstein is like some kind of guru for her. She's the Crown Princess of Norway. And giving weird, creepy advice. Is it inappropriate for a mother to suggest two naked women carrying a surfboard for my 15-year-old son's wallpaper? Epstein, let them decide. Mother should stay out of it. So here's some of these emails. And so Boris is like her handler, I guess. You should schedule your trip to my island. Did you tell anyone about our Met conversation? And now here's these, just chatting about just a DARPA meeting. That's interesting. What happened with Met now? She wants to carry your kid, winky face. Met is a mess. And here's various exchanges. So here in this one, Epstein advises her, close your eyes, take in white through your nose, hold for 7, dark gray out your mouth. What the fuck? All this weird, these weird conversations. Met will go see Dr. Adelson tomorrow at 10:30. Janusz will drive her. And there's just hundreds of emails like these where he's like this life coach to the Crown Princess of Norway. Then there is this exchange with Noam Chomsky. And Chomsky just kind of casually says to Jeffrey Epstein, about 90% of the payments to Greece actually go to the German and French banks who made risky investments and want to be paid off. So in effect, Greeks are paying the northern banks for debts that people never incurred. Now, the date of this is important because this is the Greek economy collapsed in like 2008, and through 2015, it was been like in a tailspin. Like there's riots going on in Greece. And here just Chomsky's like, yeah, by the way, just so you know, the Greeks are they're literally being fleeced or being forced to pay debt to these German and French banks. Just, you know, you see why it's important that people have these emails. Mark says it's the first time I ever heard you cuss. I'm impressed with myself because on people who know me know that I swear all the time. I try not to on the show, but because you know it's good too. But here we have bigger ones. Look at this one. This is Jeffrey Epstein grooming female honey trap spies in Ukraine. So here we have, I can't make this bigger for some reason. A woman says, and by the way, okay, so the text in blue is Epstein. And this is, look at the date on this. Or maybe I can't see the date. Somehow I missed the date on this, but this is in like 2014, which is right around the time the Ukrainian, the Maidan coup is happening. And here's what Jeffrey Epstein says. I want you to start reading about politics in Ukraine. Zelensky corruption, parliament started to follow it. I understand that you want to be successful for many reasons, and I mean very successful. It will take time and hard work, but I know you can do it. What you say, Donetsk, what city? I want 2 to 3 hours of FaceTime before Og. And she says, now it will be so interesting to watch the politics in Ukraine. All politics is a comedy show. But she says, Artyomovsk city. Now, Artyomovsk is the Russian name for the city the Ukrainians call Bakhmut, which was one of the bloodiest battles in the entire Ukraine war that went on for like 8 months in 2023, I think it was. The whole city was destroyed. It's in the Donbass. It's in the region where the fighting has occurred. And here's what Epstein says. It's funny but sophisticated corruption. Huge amounts of money will be made. Huge. I'd like to see you as a female oligarch. So, yeah, he's literally grooming female spies to blackmail Ukrainian politicians. Here's another one. Jeffrey Epstein talking to Ariane Rothschild. Ariane de Rothschild. Also copied on this is Olivier Colombe, who's an advisor to the Edmond de Rothschild Group. The Ukraine upheaval should provide many opportunities. This is, and look at the date, March 2014. And Epstein is planning, along with Epstein and the Rothschilds, planning on how they can get rich off of the civil war happening in Ukraine. The timing on all this isn't 24. Everywhere big stuff is happening in the world, Epstein's right there. 2014, he's in Ukraine. 2015, he's in Greece. Let's see, what else do we have here? Why is this not opening? Here's Mike Benz. Epstein, using CIA airplanes in the 1980s, using CIA airplanes in the 1990s, using CIA airplanes in 2017. I'm having internet issues, by the way, today, guys. I'm not on Comcast. Comcast is terrible service, I'm discovering. It's out like all the time. I'm using my phone again, but something has gone wrong here. Load image, please. Okay, well, unfortunately, I can't get the post to pop up, but obviously, you can go to Mike Benz's Twitter page, or you can go to my Twitter page. You can find the articles here about this. I don't know why it's not loaded anymore. They keep disappearing. Yeah, see, I'll just reload this page, see if that does the trick. Hope you guys can see me. Hope my internet's even working at all. Now I'm starting to worry. Well, while we're waiting for that page to load, here's another one. Just left Ghislaine's townhouse after party for the film. Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos were there. Gene Pagozzi, director Mira Nair. That's Zoran Mamdami's mother. There have been, by the way, there's a lot of AI photos that are fiction that are on all over the internet now of like Zoran Mamdami's mother with Clinton and Epstein and Bezos in one photo. I don't know why people are making up fake photos to discredit real stories, I suppose. But just the fact that the mother of the future mayor of New York, look, 2009. This is an email from 17 years ago. You know, it's like the Carlin saying, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Somehow all these elites are in the same circles. So here's a good comment about this. While there's no evidence that Zoran Mamdami is Jeffrey Epstein's son, because some people are speculating about that online. But he makes the point, this highlights a much broader and deeper problem, which is the incestuous nature of elite networks. At a certain level, everyone seems to know everyone, work for everyone, or it's connected through some opaque web of professional and personal ties. And it goes on, you know, James Comey's daughter just happened to be the lead federal prosecutor on the Epstein case. The judge who presided over the trial of Hillary Clinton's lawyer, the one who helped her seed the Rushgate hoax, is married to Lisa Page's lawyer. Page, of course, was involved with Peter Strzok, one of the central figures in that same hoax. And to complete the circle, Merrick Garland officiated their wedding. Yeah. I'm so glad that these documents are coming out. And for that alone, anyone who says Thomas Massie never accomplished anything is full of it. Here's another one. And there's been a lot of results coming out about this. Here's one. Slovakia's national security advisor resigns over Epstein links. Gee, who's this guy? Miroslav Lajak? Well, guess who he was? He was one of the guys involved in carving up Yugoslavia. From 2000 to 2009, he led the mission as High Representative of the International Community and European Union Special Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina. He was involved in getting the independence of Montenegro. So, yeah. It's like everywhere. These guys are Jeffrey Epstein is. What else do we have here? Hold on. I'm realizing I missed some earlier stories I have to cover at the end. But of all the things, the biggest thing in these documents is everywhere is Israel. So let's start with this. This is Ari Ben Menashe. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. I can tell you, though, I've read his book, Prophets of War Inside the Secret U.S.-Israeli Arms Network. This book is freaking crazy. I dog-eared every page that has like absolutely explosive revelations on it. And you can see like on the spine, like it's like almost every page. It's like dog-eared. Just absolutely nuts. He's a former Mossad agent and he wrote that book, but here's him about this.
I believe that the American government is sort of trapped by the Israelis. Jeffrey Epstein is one of their tools to trap them.
And what do you think of Dershowitz's denial?
Hold on a second. I want to give you an example. Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, Ehud Barak, met Arafat in the 90s, and there was no deal. The reason was Epstein. They were being blackmailed by Epstein. Ehud Barak was also a friend of Epstein, the prime minister of Israel at the time. But he was being blackmailed by the Israeli right wing as well. And they stopped an agreement with Arafat. They were about to reach an agreement there for a two-state solution.
Did you catch that? Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed Bill Clinton, the president of the United States, and Ehud Barak, the prime minister of Israel, to sabotage a peace deal that, having failed, has led to the death of literally hundreds of thousands of people. That has caused countless in unimaginable levels of death and human suffering. And Jeffrey Epstein is like the key figure in all of that. You see why this is so important. Here's another thing. This is okay. So this is a document from the FBI, a confidential human source reporting document. And again, now you can choose to think that this is just BS because it's just hearsay. It's just an allegation. It's an anonymous report. That is a bit of a misunderstanding of how the FBI operates. Confidential human sources are vetted, and they are not anonymous to the FBI. They're not named in this document. But the FBI values having real intelligence and does not value having made up gobbledygook. So they don't just keep taking reports from people if they don't believe their sources are giving them good information. So with that in mind, here's what this confidential human source tells the FBI in October of 2020. Yeah, let me see if I can open this in a new tab and then make it bigger. Yeah, there we go. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. Human source learned that Dershowitz influenced many students from wealthy families. For example, Josh Kushner and Jared Kushner were his students. Dershowitz told the source that if he were young again, he would be holding a stun gun as an Israeli intelligence agent, Mossad. The source believed Dershowitz was co-opted by Mossad and subscribed to their mission. The source still continues to communicate occasionally for Dershowitz. That's an interesting choice of words. For Dershowitz, not with Dershowitz. He communicates occasionally for Dershowitz. And you know, prominent people often do have writers. Like Dershowitz didn't write all of his books. He has ghostwriters. Epstein was represented by Dershowitz. The source remembered Dershowitz tells Alex Acosta, U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time, that Epstein belonged to both U.S. and allied intelligence services. The source shared... Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Let me make this bigger. The source shared phone calls between Dershowitz and Epstein, during which he/she took notes. After these calls, Mossad would call Dershowitz to debrief. Epstein was close to the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and trained as a spy under him. Barak believed Netanyahu was a criminal. Saudi Arabia, Israel, and UAE are allied against Qatar, Turkey, Iran, and Syria. One of the sources, who presumably worked blank, asked the source a lot of questions about Epstein. CHS became convinced that Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. See previous reporting. And this goes on. Maria Drakova is based in Silicon Valley. She's been running a firm called Day One Ventures, which is supposedly an early-stage investment company. She used to be Russian President Vladimir Putin's main contact in the Russia youth movement. The source and Drakova spoke, but she did not want to talk about technology. Instead, she looked at the source and said, "You knew Epstein, didn't you?" She said Epstein was a wonderful man. It was a crying shame what had been done to him. The source concluded that Day One Ventures was in Silicon Valley to steal technology. The source advised Chabad, I don't know how they pronounce it. I think it's like Chabad, is doing everything they could to co-opt the Trump presidency. Chabad is basically a state-sanctioned Judaism. It is used by Putin to keep tabs on all the Russo-Jewish oligarchs. On the day Trump was elected president, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner were at the gravesite of Rabbi Shearsam, who's one of the most powerful rabbi in the Chabad network. Jared didn't disclose his stake in Cadre because of its ties to the Russian state. The source believed this was/is the real Russian collusion story. Kushner has moved a lot of Russian investment money around. The FBI should investigate Kushner's family charities to find evidence of corruption and money laundering. Chabad routinely uses charities to launder money. And this goes on and on. Think the American people had a right to know about these things? Oh, and of course, there's this little line in here. Where was it? I was looking at something else. Hold on. Looking at this document. Is this the same one? Yes, it was. Yeah, this line here. So this Nigerian guy has been involved, developed Trump's hotels, and is a billionaire. Introduced him to the Indonesian CIA. He speaks Indonesian. He brought his Beverly Hills home from Trump at an inflated price. Blank was at Harry's house when Harry Blank, that Trump told him he was going to fuck Amazon over the military contracts. The source advised that this was a real collusion story. Trump had been compromised by Israel, and Kushner is the real brains behind his organization and his presidency. Yeah, well, it seems that way, doesn't it? Also, lots of racist Jewish stuff is in these documents too. So here's Jeffrey Epstein saying the way Jews make money is selling short the shipping futures. Let the goyim deal in the real world. The goyim refers to it's like their word for genetically retarded people, non-Jewish people. The Untermenschen. From shipping news, the most dramatic growth has been in the shipping futures, which allow shipping companies to lay off risks. The most popular features are forward freight agreements to deliver goods on a particular route at some point in the future. They've grown in the past year to be roughly the size of the physical market, according to Bill Lyons of the Baltic Exchange, a shipping bazaar in London that sells FFAs. You know, by the way, most of the shipping insurance world is based in London, and the big exception is like Russia. They don't get their ships insured in London because they can't. So there was that lovely post. And then so someone commented, he actually referred to us as goyim in private emails. The guy's like, yeah, they did here and here. Look at this line. He's talking to Peggy Siegel, who I guess is some kind of scheduler. And the subject line is yacht slut, typical workplace email subject line. She's like a publicist, I think. Peggy Siegel. She's you can Google her. She's on got a Wikipedia page. So Siegel asks him, "It is going to be 100% Jew, right? Or is it going to be 100% Jew night? Even Perlman on Yum Yum has some goyim, spelled wrong, but means non-Jews. I'm getting my media elite list FedExed out for Saturday, and we'll email some names. What about Charlie Rose? Love him. What about Jane Fonda, my new best friend? Nothing like an ex-Jew hater with a Jewish boyfriend to mix it up. Peg." And then Jeffrey Epstein responds, "No, goyim in abundance. JP Morgan execs, brilliant wasps." Actually saw some people on X were like, "What's a wasp?" Yeah, WASP stands for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Means an American or of British origin or a British person. White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So that's Jeffrey Epstein. Kind of a Jewish supremacist streak here. Let's see. I showed that one already. Yeah, let's at that one already. Oh, here's a funny one. Back to Steve Bannon, as Trump once called him, Sloppy Steve. And Epstein says, "You're an honorary Jew anyway. Now it no longer Judeo-Christian, just Judeo." And Bannon says, "Honored. I will drop the Christian and Christian Zionist." Well, good, because Christian Zionists are not Christian. There's only Zionism. Christian is something else. Yeah, we looked at that already. Yeah, here's the father-in-law to the new Federal Reserve chair.
That you must tell them the truth. Israel must finally get serious about public relations. If Israel can't tell its amazing story to the world, then its enemies will, and they've done it now. We must expose every renegade teacher and their unions. We must expect moral courage from our political officials.
Anyway, he's going on and on about how he wants to root out anyone who is disparaging that lovely, wonderful, genocidal state of Israel. Oh, this is kind of funny. This is just, wouldn't you know, Mark Levin.
We can't waste our time on Epstein and other stuff that are going on here that some people want us to focus on. I've about had it with all that stuff. We better focus on who we are, what we're doing, where we want to take the country, and what they want to do to the country. Mr. Speaker, God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you very, very much.
Yep. Stop talking about this Epstein stuff. What's the point? How dare these goyim know about what the elites talk about? And they're just talking to themselves. All right. I'm going to put all those tabs aside for now because I've got a little bit more. What else? Actually, maybe that was all. Hold on. Have we seen everything? I mean, that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a lot right there. You know, Greece, Norway, Israel, the Trump administration. Rolla says 120,000 pages. We have news and scandals for the next 120 years. And there's more to go. There's more to come. Mark says the Clintons are full of themselves. I really wish that Bush 41 had won re-election as president in 1992. Yeah, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have a long, long, long list of terrible scandals themselves. And Bill Clinton, of course, you know, he knew Jeffrey Epstein pretty well too. Mark says, not to change the subject. Well, you know, I think we're close to the end. We've covered this Epstein stuff for a lot. And actually, my throat's suddenly getting sore, so I'm going to do a couple of stories and then close the stream. Have you heard of any Republican candidates for this year's election for the State Board of Education? I asked because I have hardly heard of any candidates. No, I haven't, Mark. And we need some. We need some very soon. I wonder if there's anything in the works on that. I did see there was a debate between two of the candidates for SOS the other day. We might do a stream about that one of these days. Yeah, my throat is getting quite sore. One other story, though, I did want to cover because I didn't get to it in my last show was this new Trump Board of Peace. BORED is how it should probably have been spelled. So a couple of things. One is the new logo. If you've seen this, it's kind of hilarious. The Patty says we got 3. Okay, well, Patty, if you're firstly, you're welcome to hop on the stream if you want, because I don't know who they are. But someone posted this is the Board of Peace's logo, which this looks like the UN's, but then made to be more America-y and tacky gold. Which then other people pointed out. Yeah, also you can tell Grok made this because it's AI slop and the image is all wrong. Like that's not what Greenland looks like over there. And in fact, if you zoom in, that's not a very good Florida. Okay, let me see if I can make this bigger. They have since fixed this. They have since fixed this, but this was their original logo. And you can see it shows a land bridge connecting Mexico to Florida. And there's also this weird, the Baja looks a little bit different, not quite right. And then Greenland is just a disaster. So, and in fact, even the latitude lines are screwed up. Look at this line they have here. So that was the original Board of Peace logo. They have since fixed it. But it's pretty hilarious. So here is the list of esteemed countries that have joined the Board of Peace. This is the organization Trump wants to replace the UN. They have presented their first document, which is going to, they're actually going to make Trump the dictator for life of the organization. He will be the supreme leader of the entire organization. So the country is really a bunch of rock stars. You look at this country, you've got Bahrain, Morocco, Argentina, that country we just gave $80 billion to because we weren't using it. Armenia, Azerbaijan, which, by the way, at Davos, the WEF meeting a week or so ago, Trump, for like the third or fourth time, again called it Azerbaijan. I think he knows he's mispronouncing it and doing it on purpose. He actually gave it a big pause in the middle. Azerbaijan. Anyway, Bulgaria, Hungary, Indonesia, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, which is not a country, Pakistan, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, UAE, Uzbekistan, and Mongolia. So, as Mark Sloboda put it, a gaggle of countries that want to kowtow to Trump. There you go. That's what we have there. I don't know why Israel's not on that list. I'm pretty sure Israel has just announced they were joining. You would think they would, since the whole point's to cut up Gaza. Although I think they're trying to make it bigger and broader and make it a whole Trump, a Trump dictated UN, basically. And then there was Putin's reply. Putin says, yeah, here's what you can do. Why don't you take the $1 billion that you have frozen from our assets, and you can use that as our membership dues. So that's what Putin said. He also said the Peace Council could be used to enforce UN resolutions. So, yeah, here's what he said. He said, here's the main point. Whatever process, this is Vladimir Putin talking. He says, whatever process is launched must actually help move things toward a long-term settlement of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on relevant UN decisions. So that's what Putin said. And as the guy's real name is Tyler Weaver. It's an absolute troll of response. Yeah, we'll use the Peace Council to enforce UN resolutions, and you can take our membership dues from the money of ours that you've stolen. That's how Russia reacted to it. So yeah, that is the Board of Peace. I'm sure we'll have a promising future for maybe the next 2.5 years at most. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, one other thing, I did mean to cover this earlier, but we do have a weekly report from Lansing because I am keeping Watchdog up to date. Very light week in Lansing this week, though. A few votes, nothing much at all. A new law to regulate telemarketing. Probably a free speech issue with that, but whatever. They all passed it unanimously. Here, though, here's this one. Look at this. Senate Resolution 92. What's this? And you see, I never usually give these resolutions descriptions because they're just, non-binding, don't do anything. And usually they just pass by a gavel. They don't actually take a roll call vote on them. This one did. What opinion was Sarah Anthony expressing in Senate Resolution 92? Let's see. And it's going very slow here, but it's going to come up. It is a resolution to trash ICE. So here's what it is. Let's look at the official text of the bill. A resolution urging the U.S. Congress to restore and strengthen oversight and accountability mechanisms for the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement and across the United States Homeland Security in light of recent events nationwide. Let's read it, shall we? Let's not read it. I will put up on the screen. I'm not going to read it word for word. But it's a resolution trashing ICE, is what it is. Federal immigration enforcement poses a threat to public safety, community trust, fatal incidents, serious question about the use of force. We talked about that on other shows, and so on and so on. We urge the U.S. to restore accountability at ICE in light of these terrible events. And guess what, folks? 3 Republicans voted yes. Michael Weber, Mark Heisinger, and John Damoose. Damoose, I believe, still has a second term he might be able to win in the state Senate. I think Weber and Heisinger are term limited. Weber and Heisinger are like the worst rhinos in the state Senate, and I think they're both termed out after this term. I don't think Damoose is. I think he could make another term, perhaps. So there you go. That happened this week. Also, that bill, I think I mentioned this, we did that kind of rundown of bills that came up earlier this year. The bill to Decriminalize pimping if you're under 18 passed unanimously in the Senate. So that's great. Adjusting the penalties for pimping. But the fact that they decriminalized pimping if you're under 18 seemed kind of funny. So there you go. And some other bills to increase the penalties for child trafficking. So there was that. That's good. They in some cases increase the penalties for human trafficking. In some cases, decrease the penalties. Strange. And some new bills. You've got a Republican bill to give driver licenses and state IDs to parolees. So go Luke Meerman, and of course the co-sponsors are all Democrats. But you know, in his scarce time in Lansing, Luke Meerman's thinking about getting these parolees back on the road. So I guess that's some people's priorities. And let's see, increased taxes on electric fuel. So there's that. Joey Andrews, Democrat, has a special crime, harassing or assaulting a mailman. Regular harassment and assault laws not good enough for the mailmen and women. They need to have special penalty enhancements. Gina Johnson has a bill in to require strip searches in prisons to be conducted according to the biological sex of the inmate. And you've got some more top-line messaging bills from the Democrats. Ban the transfer of state property to ICE. Ban law enforcement from entering a home based on a federal administrative warrant. So there you go. Bills that will become laws if Democrats get their power back in the House and keep the governor's mansion next year, which unfortunately I'm not feeling too good about there. So, all right, guys, I think that will do it for us for tonight. My throat is going out. So another sad week, and God knows next week was probably gonna be even sadder depending on what happens in the Middle East. So that is the sad state of affairs for today. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but well, it is what it is. That's it for us for tonight, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you like the content. And until next time, thanks for all you guys do for liberty. Peace.